I'm Nancy Bruyere, if you don't know me yet. Our ministry started 20 years ago. I was ordained a deacon in 1997. And I think it was just after or before I was ordained when I first heard about the sacred circles. Our ministry is a big ministry. When I first started as a deacon, we looked after 4 communities in our area: Sagging First Nation, Little Black River, Manitoba, and Hollow Water, and a lot of times in Winnipeg and Salt Creek, Pine Falls. Our ministry just took us all over the place once we started. People called us to go all over the place, to go and minister to people, our people, and with people we didn't even know. Whenever we walked into the hospital, especially if I wore my collar, people would come up to me and ask me if I can go pray for their relatives. And it's been an interesting ministry, a very, I don't know how to say it. I'll just talk about a little bit about what we've done. We've been doing funerals, a lot of funerals. Well, we do our regular services on Sundays, and then we have a children's ministry. Our children's ministry started out of when I got burned out. Before Richard was, Richard was just starting. I think he was just being ordained that time, and I kind of got burnt out, and so I went into children's ministry, and that one was really that was a big blessing, because I see a lot of these children now. They're just graduating from high school, and we're still praying for them that that they'll keep on going, that they'll lead the community and not be afraid to be all that God has called them to be. That's our prayer for them, and that God will keep them safe. As a parent and as a grandmother, I find it hard to let go of my grandchildren. It was easier to let my kids go. But to see my grandchildren leaving the community, and it's hard. But one of the things that I want to share with you too is we do a lot of weddings. Like this month we have we have a wedding every weekend. So and then we have at the end of the month, the last weekend of this month, we have a renewal of vows, marriage vows. So we're very thankful for that the people, all these people that we minister, they don't always come to church. A lot of times they come to church when there's a funeral. That's when our churches are full. So our ministry is not always in a church, it's outside of the church building. Last week we did a wedding outside the church for my nephew. And that was a blessing because his wife is traditional. They follow the traditional ways. They dance in powwows. And for them, for her side of the family, it was the first time they've been to a wedding like that. And it was a blessing for our whole family, for both families from a different community. When we first started our ministry, one of the things I remember the most about our ministry is when I first was asked to go to the hospital to go pray for an elder from our community. He stopped going to church for quite a while. And so I went to the hospital, and I was just shaking because I didn't know what to expect. And I knew what to do because the priest before me, he was the first Indigenous priest in our community, told me what to do. He taught me what to do, to go and say, how to say the prayers and what to do. So I went, and I was scared. So anyways, what happened was the family came and meet me at the door, and they told me that he was very sick, and it sounded like he wasn't going to live very long. So anyways, I went inside, went into his room with the family, and we all stood around. And then I started, before his wife said to the family and to this man who was very sick, Nancy is here to pray for you. And then he looked up and he said, "What for? I'm not dying yet." I was scared, but I wanted to laugh at the same time, but it was such a serious moment. So those are the kind of experiences I had. And then there were times when we had to do funerals from each community, from one community to the next. We had to travel about 45 minutes to an hour. And there were times when we had to pass the hearse on the highway to get there before them, before the hearse. But these are just, it's just, it seems normal. I don't know anybody else would. But that is our ministry, and ever since we've had our own deacons, like not our own deacons, but we've had deacons in these communities. We have Reverend Norman Mead, who is supposed to be here today too, and Reverend Ernest McPherson in Little Black River. Ever since they were ordained deacons, it's made it easier for us because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and we do a lot of baptisms. We do. We go visit as much as we can, and I just want to share some of the things with you that the things that I have done, or the times that I felt like a third of my own life was in the hospitals. I slept on hospital chairs. I slept once on a hospital floor in a washroom. But, it's because it's our culture. We can't leave. We just don't go there and pray and then leave. A lot of times we stay there with the family members, and, even if it's in Winnipeg or in the hospital, our neighboring town. Anyways, I think that's. I'm not sure if I should keep on going, but there's more to our ministry, and I think the first time we went to. I just want to share this real quick. That the first time we went to General Synod, it was for me a culture shock. I really got scared when I went, and we had to sit at the tables and be a silent partner. We couldn't speak, and it was very hard not to be able to say anything, especially when it had to do with water. And this was in 2001, I think, or 2000. First time we went to a General Synod, and it was a big culture shock for me because, so many things, the issues that were being talked about, and the biggest one for me that time was the water. Water is very precious to us as Indigenous people. It's sacred to us because it gives us life. And just recently, I've started going into, I've been getting invited to go to our cultural events, just to go and observe and to pray and just to be there with our people. And while I was listening to the woman speaking about how our bodies, the woman's body, carries a child, and all of a sudden I had this vision of a woman with a baby in the womb. How does that baby survive in that water, for 9 months? And it really made me think that how God created us so sacred, and a lot of our young people don't know that our bodies are sacred, that God created us so sacred. So I feel like we have so much to teach our young people, and our culture is so very important, is a very important part of our ministry. It was scary at first to go into our culture because we were taught not to even go to powwows, And to speak our language, for me, is very hard because I still understand it. My language, my first language is Ojibwe. But to speak it, it doesn't, I have a hard time to speak it. So we're trying so hard to, in our communities, to encourage and teach and encourage our young people to learn the language. And for us, it's very important. Also to learn, I think when I heard about, I heard some, I think was saying something about how our people are really turning to our cultures, going to sun dances. And that's what's happening in our community too. So I get invited to go to a lot of these events that they have. And sometimes I get worried that, because the elders in our church don't approve of it yet, not all of them. Our community is still struggling with suicide, drugs. There's so much drugs that are coming into our communities. It seems like such a big battle right now, but we keep on going, and what I see happening in our community and our ministry is that we're working together to help our people. And I just want to say that I want to share this. When Mark called us to come and speak about our ministry, I thought about Philippians, about what St. Paul said. I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound everywhere and in all things. I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. And when I think about our ministry, this is what comes to me, because, all our Indigenous ministers, most of us don't get paid for what we do. And what keeps me going in this ministry after 20 years is first, the love. My ministry, I think, when I was ordained 20 years ago, I didn't think about money at all. It wasn't, something that came in. It wasn't, or being a minister, I think, wasn't something that I had planned growing up. I thought being a minister, you had to be a perfect person. And then I started learning along the way that God uses imperfect people, imperfect lives. When I look at our people, and then I look at my own life, my past, my history, and the hurt that I went through, I can emphasize, I feel that pain of our people, and it keeps me going. The other thing is, because of what Jesus did for me, how he changed my life, how I used to be before, not having any purpose, I just want to tell people about Jesus. And it seems like people, are afraid to hear about Jesus, maybe because of how Jesus was represented before, because I never knew before how loving God is, how compassionate he is, how merciful he is. And that's what we are sharing. I feel that we are sharing in our ministry to our people is the love of Christ, not by judging or by preaching, but by living by example. So for me, to keep on going all these years, what kept me was that when Jesus changed my life, all I had to offer God was myself And that's what he was waiting for. So that's where our lives are and our ministry is. It's still, and I've been, I did some work on suicide prevention, and that's one of the hardest things to work on. But I think we're going to talk about that at a different time. Okay. So I'm going to leave that where it is now, and what else? Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for that clap. She said everything. She said everything I was going to say. I was in 2002. I got ordained as deacon, and I was Nancy's deacon for 7 years. Then when they come and asked me if I wanted to be priesthood, I said no. I like being deacon. She's the boss. So they made Nancy and I both associate priests in our area, but now she's the priest in charge and I'm associate. I like it that way. But one of the things that's really hard for myself in our ministry is because we're both non-stipend priests, and it's very, very hard. And I really love the ministry, I really do. But in order for us to pay for the bills and gas and things like that, I have to have a secular job. And I thank God that I was able to get a job in my background as an engineering. And I work for our community as the director of public works. And that takes a lot of my time. And that's where it's really hard for me. Because when we first started, Nancy and I were always... we had 4 communities to do, and we had All the Water, Black River, Manitoba, sometimes Beset, and sometimes Great Falls. And there was just the 2 of us because Reverend Andrew Sinclair, he was the priest before us, and he went through the, remember the tape program? Train an Indian priest. That's what he went through. And it was, he was a... if it wasn't for Andrew, when I came back to church, he spoke in such a way that it touched me, because it was relevant. He was talking in our language, and he was talking about the things that meant to us, and it just brought me back to church. And one of the things that brought us back was the ministry was a children's ministry. Andrew Sinclair's sister, Rachel, asked Nancy and I if we could help her with the Christmas concert with the kids, getting all the kids together and teach, practice them with Christmas hymns. And then we had a little play with the using the Bible reading and the nativity story. And that's what brought us back. That's what we started working with that. And that's where I started coming back to church. And then I had no plan on being a clergy. I wasn't, not the way I was in those days. And I was really of the world. And I was also baptized in the Catholic Church. I was in residential school at the Catholic Church, and I was a Catholic. And Nancy and Ren were Anglican. And the way it was in our community was they were always fighting amongst each other. You're Catholic, I'm Anglican. You're upriver, I'm downriver. You're cross-river, that kind of stuff. But when I came back, when I was listening to Andrew, it really drawed me. Then I felt like I was at home with a family. This is my family. And the love that he had, it just drew me. And that's why I just love my ministry. But because of the things that we go through now, I helped Nancy with the suicide prevention. And it's a very hard work. It's very hard, especially in our communities. A lot of the young people are just crying out right now. And a lot of times you feel like you're just by yourself. Or I think that's how they feel too, like they're just nobody to listen to them. But I really thank God that we do have a lot of people that are together, like all of us here, the Anglican Indigenous peoples. We're not alone. We're together. And last night we came in late because we were at the Selkirk Hospital. We had to go pray for our granddaughter. And she's all right now, but it really scared us. And because of the things that we, as part of our ministry, when families, they phone us to go to Winnipeg, sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We rush off to Winnipeg, go to the hospital, go pray for them, and be with them. Sometimes we're there all night, you know. And a lot of it is we pay for our own gas and, you know, parking, meals. And some people, when we went to the hospital, we even gave them money because they were there with nothing, eh? So we helped them out. That's part of our ministry. And on Monday, we went to Winnipeg, and we went and did shopping for this lady. She's, I think she's dependent on pills. So, and then she was in between welfare. So we went and bought her groceries. We took them to her. You know, these are things that we do in our community. And I love the ministry, but at the same time we have to live. And our church also, we have a really, really loving congregation. They're not well-to-do, but they give what they have. And a lot of them, especially when there's wakes, when Andrew Sinclair was there, we as part of our church, we built an extension. And his plan was to have the Sunday school for the children. But it sort of evolved into a place where people come to do wakes. Because a lot of our people have homes that are small, but big families. So they all come to the church and we have a wake there. And we go pray with them. And when we have wakes, that is where you see our people really come together. They come and sing. The way we do it is we have 3 nights wake. Then they would sing right through the beautiful gospel hymns, the ones that are healing songs. And that's what they do. They just come together. Some of them are full gospel. Some of them are Catholic. Some of them are Anglican. But they come together. And they just, how do you say it again? They're with the family to help them out through that morning. And a lot of people, they come to us and they just thank us. And we just did a memorial service for a lady. She did not want a funeral or a wake. So she got cremated. But the family, we wanted them to have a place to grieve, to let go, eh? So they invited us on Sunday to go to their place and have a feast. Then we went to the graveyard and we buried their ashes. And there we made it like a wake and a funeral at the same time. And the people were all together and they just started crying. And then after that, one of the ladies come and thanked me. She hugged me. She said, "I really love going to your church. It makes me feel like I'm loved and I'm at home with a family." That's what she said to us. But it takes a lot. I really love it. I do. And that's part of it. And Nancy's Sunday school, she gets about 20, 30 kids sometimes. Well, Fred was there one time. Remember Fred when you were there? We made him work. He did baptism. We made him do everything, baptism, prayer to people, except for wedding.
We didn't ordain him.
Yeah. And the children were all with him there. So that's it when he came. It was a blessing when he came to. Same with Mark when he comes to. It's always a blessing. And it makes our people feel like when the bishops come that, it makes them feel good. You came and blessed us. Thank you for that. You blessed our people. So, and it's there's a lot more to our ministry, but those are just the things that I remember. And we did, when we do baptism, sometimes we do about 7, 8, 9, 10. And this year, I remember doing a funeral one after the other, 1 week after the other, for about 2 months. Yeah, one week after the other. And Father Augustine, he was praying, he was telling us, the Catholic Church, he says, I pray to God that I do not do any more funerals on a Saturday. And he did Saturday for about 3 months, every Saturday. Yeah, it's a big community. Well, one of the things the people are saying is because our community, they thought that we got 7,000 people in Sagin, he says. That's why you're seeing a lot of these. You know, it's a big community. But the ones that are really hard to do is the ones that are young people. We did one funeral for a young man that took drugs that was a bad drug in there. I don't know if it was fentanyl or some heart attack. So we did that funeral. Then next week after, we did a funeral for a young man that hung himself, that family. And then 10 days after, it was his cousin that died on the streets of Winnipeg. See, these are things that, you know, but we have to, it's not only we do the funeral, but we also go to the family. And it takes a lot out of us. Yeah. And sometimes I'm really glad that our daughter, Linda, she ran for chief and council. Now she's in council. And, but still she asks, I have to be there. But sometimes I got to take away from like today I was supposed to be at work. But they understand and they support me with our ministry. And I thank God for that.